US, the average IQ is 100 with a standard deviation of 15. What percentage of the population would you expect to have an IQ lower than 85? So first of all, normal CDF, okay, and lower than that, so just go a really low number here, followed by 85. So you want, right, you're coming from the left and you stop at 85. That's the idea here. This would be 115, multiply that by 100. You get 15.87%. I would say all or nothing, so 1 mark there. What percentage of population would you expect to have an IQ between 90 and 120? So percentage, so normal CDF it is, and this is 90 to 120, so they give you the lower and the upper. So it's 115 times that by 100, and so you get 65, 63. 1 mark for that. What IQ would one have if only 40% of the population scored higher on the test? On the IQ, there's an IQ test, right, that you can take. So what is your IQ if 40% are higher than you? If you scored right here, you would have 50 higher, 50 lower. So you want it slightly over here, and the 40 is over there. Okay. You coming up with 60 is a mark. Okay. If I see 60 anywhere, you get the mark just for that. And then you're going to get another mark for using inverse norm, and 0.6, 115. Okay. So that would be 103.8. If you got this wrong, if you went 0.4, obviously your number is going to be lower. Just take off 1 mark for having this wrong, but still give the step mark for finding inverse norm. So 2 marks for C because of that. Next. So in this case, we're assuming things are normally distributed. By the way, inverse norm, normal CDF do not work if it's not normally distributed. Later on, we're going to look at data that isn't normally distributed. Then we cannot use what we're doing here. Okay. So the mean is 70, standard deviation is 2. What proportion? That's another word. It's percentage, probability, likelihood, proportion of adult males are between 72 and 73 inches. You want to use this one. I think that also gave it away that I'm giving you a low and a high. This would be 70 and 2 times 100. You would get 9.18% in that case. 1 mark. What height corresponds to the point where 20% of all adult males are greater than this height? 20 are greater than the height you're trying to find, so we're further off to the right. So that means that this is 80%, and that's the one I want. So this one is worth 2 marks again. 1 mark for the 80, 1 mark for using inverse norm. So if you used inverse norm, you most likely get a mark already. Okay, and that is 71.68. 68 inches. So you have to have units in this case. Okay. The IQ score, there were no units there. That's just it. That's your score. Okay. What height corresponds to the point where 20% of all adult males are less than this height? Okay. So the height where 20% are below you in a sense, that's this scenario. So just 1 mark for this one. Inverse norm 0.2, 70 and 2. Okay. So you have your 68.32 inches is your answer there. So 4 and 4, that's 8 for this page. And then we'll do the back side. The weight of chocolate bars from a particular factory have a mean weight of 8 ounces and a standard deviation of 0.1 ounce. What is the weight of a chocolate bar with a z-score of -2.7? You want to be using this, right? Where you have your z-score times the standard deviation plus the mean. You should have this formula on your study sheet. So negative 2.7 times 0.1 plus 8 ounces. This ends up being 7.73 grams, if you did that right. What's that? What's that? Oh, that's right. Thank you. Ounces. OZ is short for ounces. They got to get their units straight, right? Chocolate bars less than 7.75 ounces are rejected and not sold. If the factory produces 12,000, how many would that represent? So first you need to do a normal CDF. That's going to be mark number 1. So anything less than 7.75 is rejected. So this is 8 and 0.1. I do not turn this into a percentage. I just leave it as a decimal. So you get 0.0062. Okay, a mark for that. And then because we're asking for the number of, right, you multiply that, and that would be 74.4, which is approximately 74 to 75 bars. I will go 75 because it's safer to assume that you're rejecting more rather than fewer. But either one is fine. 74, 75, the province would have said, you understand that you need to round to the whole number. There are instances where you have to round up. Like if they said, like there's a word, like when it's a minimum, what's the minimum number of bars that you can expect to be, or a maximum. If it's maximum, then 75 is your answer, okay? So keep that in mind. So another mark for the figuring out the bar. So if you got this wrong, you lose the mark, but if I see you multiplying, you still get a step for this, the step mark for that, okay? And 1 mark for A, so 3 marks so far for question 3. And then we'll do this one. First thing you should have recognized is this one definitely needs midpoints, okay? So the midpoints are 17, 22, 27, 32, 37, 42, 47. So you get a mark for doing the midpoints. Sorry, that's very crooked, but no marks for that being straight. And it's asking to determine, right, determine the percent of mothers who were under 18 years of age. So what you need to do here is first figure out the mean and the standard deviation, which you can do like this. So it's one variable stats, L1, L2. Okay. If you do that, your mean age would be 31.99 years, the average age of a mother. Standard deviation would be 5.82 years. Why is it important to do that? Because you cannot figure out percentage if you don't have your mean and the standard deviation. But I give you everything you need to figure that out. Okay, we've done this a lot. So I will give you 1 mark for the midpoints and 1 mark for figuring out this information. So 2 marks already if you got this far. Then, so now we want to find the percentage of mothers who were under 18. So we need to go under 18, so all the way up to 18 years, and then you just feed it the mean and the standard deviation as we just found, like these two go in here. You multiply that by 100, and you get 0.81%. Very small percentage of mothers are under the age of 18. Okay. The bonus, if you get the 50% of adults are taller than 180. What does the 50 mean? Where are you? You're you're right in the middle. Not, sorry, 180 centimeters, sorry, not percent. Because if 50 are above or below, right, then this is your mean. So you get a mark for that. If you figure that one out, that's a +1. To figure out the standard deviation, I think I'm going to leave that for now. I'm going to show you how to do that later on. The standard deviation, if you figured it out, is 15.63 though. I don't want to bedazzle you right now with how I did that. So if you got that, way to go. So +1, +1. So this is bonus. It doesn't affect you if you didn't do it. So the backside is worth 6 plus the 2 bonus, of course, if you got it. So 6 and 8, correct? That's a total of 14. So put a mark out of 14 on here. It is what it is. You're going to see more and more of this. And I encourage you to keep trying the pages in your booklet.